Yo, what's good, my peoples? It's Jay Cuttz, Salvaeco. I'm out here. Shouts to my bro Preem and back of the boards. Shouts to all the people that have made this possible. This is the first official solo meaning of life segment show. And I decided to go on my own because I feel like it's very important to also shed light on the fact that I've been a speaker and an artist way before I was a show host. So me holding it down on my own is different from somebody else holding it down on their own. A lot of people feel like they need somebody there to give them inspiration or material to speak about. But I'm not the kind of person because I've been an artist since I was about 11, 12 years old. So my point of also doing this is to shed light on the fact that having people around is cool and having people on your show is official, but a lot of the times it is up to you to really make something out of your life. And sometimes you got to do it on your own. Sometimes you have no other option but to really stand up for yourself and take charge of your life and go after your dreams. And you have to take into account that people won't be in your corner every single time. Even if you got a close circle and you got loyal friends and you got people out here that actually love you, they have their own lives too. They got their own families to take care of. They got their businesses to handle. And for somebody to think that they should be there for them every single time is selfish, because we got to take into account the fact that people have a life. And with that being said, we're going to start to show up with the understanding that you can do it on your own. You know, you could do it with God and you could do it on your own in the sense where you're seeing life from the viewpoint of it being in the palm of your hands as far as your free will and your choices. Nobody is anybody to take away that from you. You know, even God has not interfered with our free will. Even God allows people to do bad things, to do positive things. And you're gonna tell me that another human being, especially somebody that's not in a position of authority, is gonna beat you in the head and tell you that this is how you have to think, this is what you have to do. Even if you're telling somebody the right thing for their lives, and even if you're leading them down that path of life and of truth and of positivity, you have to take into account that people have their own free will, and we are not in the position of God to take that away from them. And the meaning of life has opened a great amount of detail and inspiration to the public and to the guests that have arrived on my show, and has put me in a position where I can also allow the fan base or the public to get to know me on a personal level, on a level where they won't be able to get to know me in music, because this is the real human speaking behind the sound. This is not just a song or a rhyme that's being done so it can sing together in place and sound great, of course, but this is somebody really speaking from the logic of God and from their mind. And that's also what I do when I speak about the messages that I speak about. For a lot of people that don't know, for years I've been a speaker on social media. In particular, I've been making videos, whether they're 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour long, or even longer, speaking about my experience in life, having a message, having substance, having a purpose. I spent years of my life doing this, on top of the fact that I was making music and doing rap shows and collaborations. And it's just an opportunity that I seen that I should be a part of because of the understanding of life that I've acquired within the years of experience. You know, when you're in your 30s and when you're about to hit 40 and 6-7 years, you start to kind of realize that it would be a waste and it would be in vain for you to waste all this knowledge and all of the wisdom that you've been able to get within your experience of life. And it would be selfish for you to hold that back from the public or from the eyes of the youth or from the people here that have ears to take heed to what you're saying, you know. And this world is filled with a lot of pride. It's filled with a lot of ego. Some people would even assume that you need them more than they need you. But that's an opinion, because the reality is that it depends on many factors. There's a dynamic behind that, and there's a reality to some people actually feeling like that. But life is not a one size fits all. If it was, then we would all think the same. We would all, for example, be legally here in this country. We would all, for example, share the same culture. So it's not a one size fits all. I'm not supposed to go to Asia and tell them why are they eating this stuff that they don't eat in my culture, right? And expect them to agree with me. Like, they came from that part of the world. This is their custom. As insane as it might seem to you or to me, for example, it's a part of how they grew up. And you would be in the wrong to try to beat them in the head with your opinion. If they like eating raw seafood, you gotta let them be, because that's their life, it's their stomach, they're eating that, not you. Me in particular, I don't really enjoy that, but I don't judge them at the same time. I allow people to understand. And then in South America, you can eat particular foods that might seem exotic in North America. Like, for example, when it comes to cuy, that's a famous plate in South America in particular when it comes to El Ecuador, to Peru, to the countryside of the Colombia area. It's a very famous type of dish. Now, it's honestly, it is a guinea pig. And to some people in North America, they look at that like, we're crazy, you know, like, these people have issues. How are you eating a pet? But these animals have been bred by indigenous people in South America for thousands and hundreds of years prior to you settling here and making it an animal that you can have as a pet, you know? So the logic behind what I'm saying is that nobody is supposed to look at life the same. And if you think that, you have a problem, because we all come from different paths. Some people are disabled, for example, and health is the biggest amount of wealth that they can gain in their lifetime. There's no higher payment than them having health. That's their wealth. That's the most success that they can get. That's what they wish for. That's all they want. They don't want no money. Then you got some people with a lot of money and health, but they don't care about health in particular, because all they care is about the material gain of this world. Both of these people came from separate paths. You can't expect them to look at life the same. If you're talking about things in an even form, we all need each other to work as a community, as a world, as a team. We all need human beings to collaborate. That's how we survived in tribal times, together as a tribe. It's only in the modern day society that it's normal for people to be narcissistic and think that they don't need nobody. Yet then somebody's doing their plumbing work so they can have water. Yet then somebody is doing the construction in the street so they can have a clear road to drive on or to ride the bus on. Yet then somebody's working in the hospital, right, to keep them or their family member healthy in case something happens. And none of these institutions of humanity are perfect. That's why there could be malpractice in the medical field, or there could be a defect when it comes to constructing a building, a house, or a skyscraper. And there can be, you know, mistakes that can be made along the line, but it doesn't mean that at some point in time we still didn't need each other. The way I see it, we have survived as a human species. We haven't survived as a single species. A single species won't be able to survive or sustain the battles and the hard times that this earth has provided to humanity. Like, for example, when it comes to a very exaggerative time in the world's climate changing history, like, for example, an ice age, how is one human being simply supposed to survive by himself? You probably would see our species hit the point of extinction, right? And you would see that because how is he supposed to duplicate himself and procreate if it's just one person? But we live in a modern time of the world where people think that because they live alone, or they think because they roll alone, or because they don't need anybody, that nobody is maintaining the cell phone signals that they're using, right, at that specific tower. That it doesn't require any type of mechanical intervention at some point in time, or nobody is maintaining the power grid that keeps us warm, for example, in the wintertime, especially if you're using a form of technology that requires electrical power, right? And same when it comes to gas, when it comes to oil. Who's sustaining all of the industries in this world that allow humanity to work together? We are, as a people. It's not just me. We are. And the point of what I'm saying is that we have to look at the larger picture, and we have to see things for what they are. And people have to stop being selfish and stop assuming that they don't need anybody, or that people need them more, or that you need this more, they need that more, blah, blah. Because if we look at it like that, what's going to happen is, and this is not like a general view, but it's just my viewpoint, how I'm seeing life. If we look at it that way, what's going to happen is that we will at some point be put in a position where we will feel a resentment against those that surround us, because we feel like we're the only ones that are sustaining this, when the reality is that it takes a village to sustain a situation like that, And with that being said, I want all these people out here to really take into account what's happening in the world and in life, and how we can actually change stuff for the better and become more mature people. At the end of the day, I can hold a show down on my own because I've been a speaker way before I was a host. I've been an artist way before I was a speaker. I've been doing these things for years, for 20 years plus. I didn't just start my career being a host of a show, didn't know what I was doing, and just wanted people there to fill in the spaces. I bring people on the platform to give them a platform to express themselves, to give them opportunity to also be of an entertainment, but to be of a message to the community, to the public, because I want them to know that we are here for each other. But it's not specifically because I can't just go on this platform and speak knowledge and speak truth and put myself in a position where I can show people what my thoughts are harboring and what my brain is seeing, how the view of life is being expressed through the eyes of somebody that has really had to go, through a lot in life. And this is the reason why I feel like it's very important to also be able to do a show where I'm on my own and where I'm in a position where I can show people the reality of life and the reality of how things are. Yo, what's good, my people? We're back to this show. Shouts to Preem again for being the director of the show. And of course, as a director, It's very important, pay attention, right, to what's happening. That's why it's not as easy as it seems. Certain people assume that, yeah, this TV stuff is something that I can do. You got to really pay attention. You got to hear what the person is saying. You got to hear the words. You got to change the scenes. You got to do what you got to do because this is an animation, right, that goes along with producing quality shows and being able to show people how much detail you could put into a show, right? When you're working on these situations and you're inspiring the people in the community. And with that being said, I also want to express the fact that there's no room for me in teamwork. There's no room for you in teamwork. Teamwork requires the effort of the community, the respect of the community, the unity of the community. It requires all these factors of life and of humans being in a position to collaborate together as one. We are not going to make it as far as we think we are going to make it without having a solid team in back of us. And of course, it's easier said than done. It's really hard to find a solid team of individuals to be there for you that you can trust, that can be loyal, that can take care of you, that can show you love, that can be your peoples until the very end. And that's why I also tell people that it's important to have the discernment from God, the discernment from the Lord that can show them and that can lead them to situations that are godly, that when they are walking out here on the streets and when they walk across a situation that's satanic, the discernment of the Lord of God is going to ring bells in their head. They're going to feel something on their chest, as an example, and they're going to know that this is not a situation that is going to be convenient for them, that will be something that will help them until the very end, And up to a certain point, a lot of us with discernment, right? If our discernment isn't strong enough, we could still be fooled. We could still be deceived. Because even in the scripture, it says that Satan comes as an angel of light. It wouldn't have to say that if people were sincere all the time. So even the scripture is telling you that you could be fooled. So if you could be fooled, you have to not lean specifically on your own understanding, but lean on the understanding of God. And with the discernment that you get from God, you could also, you know, navigate throughout this path of life, avoiding a lot of situations that were sent by the devil to even take you down. And it's unfortunate because sometimes for a temporary amount of time, Satan can use those that are closer to you to do something. And sometimes those people are being used by Satan temporarily, but sometimes they're being used permanently. Now, who am I to judge people and to make them feel like they are on a permanent road to the hellfire when I'm not God? We can have an understanding of maybe this person might not change, but who am I to really persecute somebody in a future that I can only assume? I don't know too much about that. And with that being said, I want people out here to really take this in a serious way because having discernment is a matter of life or death. If I couldn't read the room, if I cannot read particular situations or people, and if I went through life seeing things as a joke, like everybody loves me and everybody's here for me and everything is beautiful, I would be naive to the fact that there's real evil out here that's sent by the devil. And sometimes you put yourself in a position like that. Sometimes it's not just Satan. Sometimes you don't care about your life, as an example, and you put yourself in direct harm's way by thinking naively that everybody is just being beautiful and that this world is such a positive place and that something can happen to you, right? And having to live like that has affected many lives. And I believe that if I would have lived like that in the last few years of my life, maybe I wouldn't have been here. That's how serious it is. And this goes beyond the understanding of like being a gangster or being tough or being from the streets or having experience in jails. This goes beyond that. This goes on the matter of being a wise person, of having the wisdom, intelligence, understanding, and having the actions to back it up. You know, for you to be a soldier for God and for you to be strong in life, you don't have to be all these things that the world calls you. You just have to be that. And I want people to take that into account and be mindful of that, we are here to be servants for God, to be servants for one another, but we're not here to serve the agendas, right, specifically of the evil that exists in this world. When you're doing that, you are practically doing the devil's will. And up to a certain point, if that's what you want to do, then in your view of it, it's all right. But when it comes to somebody who's following this path in a serious way, it's obvious that, that's not the correct thing to do, because we all know that the broad path leads to destruction, not just for those that are bringing the destruction and doing the will of Satan, but for the person who's doing it himself. There was also an article and a video that was going viral online that spoke about the man that established the Church of Satan in the U.S., right? I believe his name is Anti-LaVey. And he's a white guy, right? In America, you would just think he's a regular white guy in Walmart just shopping and, yeah, we're all American and everything is beautiful. No, he opened up the Church of Satan. Look at that. And the stereotype is that people like me are bad. But, this guy who looks like an American hero, he opened up the Church of Satan. And his last few words before he died, were that something was really wrong. Something was really wrong. I shouldn't have done this, something like that. Something really bad is happening. It was almost like he feared the afterlife because he realized that those demons were surrounding him to collect his soul, And he feared death for a reason. When you're walking with God, there's no fear. But when you're with Satan, the bravery that you get from Satan is just temporary. At some point in time, the fear starts to kick in when people realize that they're paying for what they did. A wealthy guy, a guy that was seen as the American hero because of how he looked, because of his racial background, as an example, because there's a stereotype attached to it. I just want people to realize. Of course, there is white people that are decent people, but there's a stereotype that if you come from my part of the world, you have to be a gang member, you have to be a cartel boss, or if you're from the hood, you have to be this, you have to be that, or a thief. But if you look like these people from the first class, you're a great person, you can't do no harm. Meanwhile, history and statistics have showed that a lot of serial killers also come from that specific first-class racial background. A lot of psychopaths, a lot of people that have worshipped some of the most famous Satanists, they come from that background. Of course, you can also go back and say, yeah, well, when it comes to voodoo, this is from in Africa, yeah, but we all have something like that. Also in Latin America, the indigenous people also followed gods that were pagan and would do human sacrifices. So we all have something like that. But the difference between me and them, or between you and them, is that we are actually stereotyped to be a lot of this bad stuff, and they're not, when they're the same or even worse. So when I'm talking about stuff like this, I'm not just talking about stuff like this through the eyes of making somebody's particular race superior, because it's not about them, because we are not. We are all still humans from God. But I'm talking about it from the viewpoint of, that's why it's important to look at the heart of the person. That's why it's important to look at their soul, to see who they are as a human being, and not just judge them by the color of their skin, or by their subculture, or by their background, either racially or spiritually, or whatever it is that you want to see it as, because people will be people regardless of where they come from. The last time I checked, you could be evil in Chinese, you could be evil in Latin American, you could be evil. I'm Salvadorian. You could be evil in Salvadorian. I've met Salvadorians that are very evil. I wish I wasn't from there sometimes. You could be evil in Ecuadorian. I'm also half Ecuadorian because the gang sold out their country to the cartel, and now there's a lot of war happening there. You could be evil in Mexican and Italian and African and from the Middle East and European, whatever. You could be evil in Asian, Chinese, Indian, Pakistani. There's no borders because this is not a racial thing. This is a spiritual war that we're fighting, and the spiritual war that we're fighting is God and the devil. So on what side are you on? Because this is a versus battle. This is not a versus rap battle. This is a versus battle for your life. This is not just a battle on the streets about what gang you're from or about what particular group you belong to. This is a battle for your soul. This is a battle that you don't have to sign up for. You're a part of it already. This is a battle where you cannot be neutral. This is a battle that's more gangster, if you want to put it in that term, than the battles that you have had to endure in your life. Because this battle is going to affect where you go in the afterlife. And as a believer in God, I have to believe in that. Because if you believe God is eternal, then there has to be an afterlife. And I don't believe in God in a religious way or in a fanatic way. I believe in God in a logical way. There has to be a cause and effect to what we see out here. There's a creator, and we are a product of that. And at some point in time, we will return. But when we return, we will be judged. And are you ready for that? Because I feel like I'm, in the last days of my life with all this stuff that's happening out here in the world. I feel like that, and I'm still young. People got to take this stuff in a serious way. They got to open their eyes. They got to love those that are still here, and they got to stand for the truth and do the right thing. If not, then these are things that they will have to deal with the day that they stand before God, and He judges them. May God bless you all. Have a beautiful day. Stay safe.